Did you know that on the darkest day in history, love was revealed in its most powerful form? Not through miracles or triumph, but through silence, suffering, and a cross that changed everything forever. In the shadow of fear and betrayal, one man walked a path no one could understand. Abandoned, condemned, and crucified, his final hours seemed like defeat, yet something greater was unfolding. What truly happened on that day? And why does it still move hearts after 2,000 years? This is not just a story of suffering, but of love that changes everything. This is the story of Good Friday. Chapter 1. Gethsemane Night, the Inner Agony. Under the quiet cover of night, Jesus Christ left the city of Jerusalem and walked toward the familiar Garden of Gethsemane. It was a place he often chose for prayer, a place of intimacy with the Father. Yet this night felt different. The air seemed heavier, and each step carried the weight of something unseen, as if all creation held its breath before the unfolding of a sacred and sorrowful mystery. As he entered the garden, a deep sorrow began to press upon his soul. He confided to his disciples that his heart was sorrowful even unto death. This was no ordinary grief, but a profound anguish that reached into the depths of his humanity. He could already sense the suffering ahead, the betrayal, the abandonment, the pain, and yet he chose to remain, embracing this moment with a love that would not turn away. In that sacred struggle, his prayer became intense beyond words. The Gospel tells us that his sweat fell like drops of blood upon the ground, revealing the depth of his agony. Here, the Son of God stood fully united with human fear and suffering. This was not weakness, but the raw truth of love facing sacrifice. In Gethsemane, heaven touched the earth through the silent tears and trembling resolve of Christ. 3 times he prayed, repeating the same plea to the Father, "If it is possible, let this cup pass from me." Yet each time he surrendered more deeply. "Not my will, but yours be done." These words echo through time as the perfect prayer of obedience. In them, we see the heart of a son who trusts completely, even when the path leads into darkness, even when the cost is everything. Nearby, his disciples struggled to stay awake. Though invited to watch and pray, they fell asleep again and again. Their weakness reflects our own, how often we fail to remain faithful in moments of trial. While Jesus entered into the greatest spiritual battle, those closest to him could not keep vigil. Still, he did not reject them, but gently called them back, revealing his patient and enduring love. Suddenly, the stillness of the night was broken. Judas arrived, leading a group of soldiers and officials. With a gesture meant to signify friendship, he approached Jesus and kissed him. That kiss, once a sign of love and trust, became an act of betrayal. Yet Jesus did not recoil. He received it with sorrowful calm, knowing that even this moment was part of the path he had freely chosen. Then, stepping forward, Jesus faced those who came to arrest him. He did not hide or resist. Instead, he declared himself openly, showing a quiet authority that unsettled those before him. In that moment, we see not a victim, but a savior who offers himself willingly. His surrender was not defeat, but love in its purest form, a love strong enough to embrace the cross before it even appeared. Chapter 2. Arrested and the Night of Injustice. Bound like a dangerous criminal, Jesus Christ was led away into the darkness of the night. The one who had healed, taught, and loved without measure was now treated as a threat. Rough hands seized him, and the silence of Gethsemane gave way to the noise of accusation. Yet he did not resist. In that moment, divine dignity met human injustice without a single word of protest. As the soldiers took him, fear scattered his disciples. Those who had once promised loyalty now fled into the shadows. Overwhelmed and confused, the garden that had witnessed his prayer now witnessed his abandonment. Jesus stood alone, surrounded not by friends but by those who came to condemn him. Still, even in that loneliness, his heart remained steadfast, carrying within it a love that would not abandon those who had abandoned him. In the chaos, one disciple drew his sword and struck out in defense of his master. It was a human reaction, driven by fear and desperation. But Jesus immediately intervened, commanding him to put the sword away. He chose the path of peace, not violence. In healing the wounded servant, he revealed once more that his kingdom would not be built by force, but by mercy, sacrifice, and a love that refuses retaliation. From there, Jesus was taken first to Annas, then to Caiaphas, the high priest. The night deepened as he was led from one authority to another, like an object passed for judgment. The questioning began, not in search of truth, but with the intent to condemn. The sacred halls that should have upheld justice instead became places where injustice quietly took root, hidden beneath the appearance of religious authority. False witnesses were brought forward, their voices weaving accusations that could not agree. Their testimonies clashed, revealing the emptiness of the charges against him. Yet the process continued, driven not by truth, but by determination to find guilt. In this moment, we see how easily justice can be distorted when hearts are closed. The trial was not about discovering truth, but about confirming a decision already made. Amid the noise of accusation, Jesus remained silent. Like a lamb led to the slaughter, he did not defend himself. His silence was not weakness, but a profound surrender to the will of the Father. Every word left unspoken carried a deeper meaning than any defense could offer. In that quiet, he bore the weight of sin, accepting the injustice so that others might one day receive mercy and freedom. At last, the high priest demanded a clear answer. Was he the Son of God? Jesus spoke the truth without hesitation. That truth, instead of setting him free, sealed his condemnation. He was declared guilty of blasphemy and sentenced to death. Thus, the light of the world was judged by darkness, and the one who is truth itself was condemned for speaking the truth in love. Chapter 3. Peter's denial, the tragedy of the human heart. In the cold darkness of that night, St. Peter followed at a distance as Jesus Christ was led into the courtyard of the high priest. He did not run away completely, yet he did not stay close either. Torn between love and fear, Peter stepped quietly into the shadows, hoping to remain unseen, uncertain of what courage would demand from him in the hours ahead. Standing among strangers, Peter tried to blend into the crowd gathered around the fire. The flickering light revealed faces he did not know, voices that did not welcome him. Yet someone recognized him, pointing him out as one of Jesus's followers. In that moment, the tension within him rose sharply. The warmth of the fire could not calm the growing fear that began to take hold of his heart. When questioned, Peter quickly denied knowing Jesus. The words came almost instinctively, driven by fear rather than conviction. A second accusation followed, and once again, he denied it. Each denial pushed him further away from the truth he once boldly proclaimed. The man who had vowed never to abandon his master now found himself shrinking back, overwhelmed by the pressure of the moment. Then came the third accusation, more insistent than the others. This time, Peter did not only deny Jesus, he swore an oath, insisting that he did not know the man. His words became stronger, more desperate, as if trying to convince both others and himself. In that instant, fear reached its peak, and Peter's denial became complete, echoing through the night with painful finality. Immediately, a rooster crowed, breaking through the silence like a call from heaven. The sound pierced Peter's heart, awakening a memory he could not escape. Jesus had foretold this very moment. What had seemed impossible just hours before had now become reality. The truth stood before him, undeniable and clear, as the weight of his actions began to settle heavily upon his soul. At that very moment, Jesus turned and looked at Peter. It was not a look of anger or condemnation, but one filled with love, sorrow, and mercy. In that gaze, Peter encountered not rejection, but understanding. It was a silent invitation to return, a reminder that even in failure, he was still loved. That look reached deeper than any words, touching the brokenness within him. Overcome with sorrow, Peter left the courtyard and wept bitterly. His tears were not only of regret, but of awakening. In his weakness, he came to understand the depth of his need for grace. That night marked not the end of his story, but the beginning of transformation. From denial would come faith, and from brokenness, a heart ready to be renewed by mercy. Chapter 4. Pilate and the compromise with evil. At dawn, Jesus Christ was brought before Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor who held authority over life and death. The religious leaders presented their accusations, hoping to secure a sentence they could not carry out themselves. In this encounter, the silence of Jesus met the power of Rome, and the fate of the innocent would soon be weighed against fear and political calculation. Pilate questioned Jesus carefully, searching for any fault that would justify the charges. Yet he found none. He sensed that this man standing before him was different, not a threat to Rome, but something far greater. Even his own conscience stirred uneasily. Still, Pilate hesitated. Though he recognized the truth, he lacked the courage to stand firmly for it, caught between justice and the pressure surrounding him. Hearing that Jesus was from Galilee, Pilate sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at the time. Herod, curious and eager for spectacle, questioned Jesus but received no answer. Disappointed, he mocked him, dressing him in a robe of ridicule before sending him back. What should have been a search for truth became a moment of mockery, revealing how easily human authority can lose its sense of justice. Meanwhile, the crowd outside grew restless. Stirred by the leaders, their voices rose together with a frightening unity. Crucify him. What began as whispers turned into a relentless demand. The same people who once listened to his words now called for his death. In their cries, we see how quickly hearts can be swayed when truth is overshadowed by fear, manipulation, and the desire to belong to the louder voice. Trying once more to find a way out, Pilate offered to release Jesus according to the custom of the feast. Yet the people chose Barabbas, a known criminal, instead of the innocent Christ. It was a tragic exchange, guilt set free and innocence condemned. In that choice, humanity revealed its brokenness, preferring what is familiar, even sinful, over the truth that challenges and calls for conversion. In a final gesture, Pilate took water and washed his hands before the crowd. It was meant to show that he was not responsible for the blood of this man. Yet no outward act could erase the decision he was about to make. Responsibility cannot be washed away. In trying to remain neutral, Pilate chose a path that allowed injustice to prevail, revealing the danger of silence in the face of truth. And so, under the weight of the crowd's demand, the sentence was given. Jesus was handed over to be crucified. Truth stood before power and was rejected, not because it was false, but because it was inconvenient. In that moment, the world chose darkness over light. Yet even in this injustice, the plan of salvation moved forward, carried not by force, but by a love willing to endure all things. Chapter 5. Scourging, the crown of thorns, and the way of sacrifice. After the sentence was pronounced, Jesus Christ was handed over to be scourged. Roman soldiers carried out the punishment with brutal precision. His body, once a source of healing for so many, was torn and wounded under the blows. Each strike fell without mercy, leaving deep marks upon his flesh. Yet within this suffering, a silent offering was unfolding, love enduring pain for the sake of all. Not satisfied with the scourging, the soldiers wove together a crown of thorns and pressed it upon his head. The sharp thorns pierced his skin, causing blood to flow down his face. What they intended as mockery became in truth a hidden sign of kingship. This was no ordinary crown, but one that revealed a kingdom built not on power, but on sacrifice, humility, and a love willing to suffer. They placed a red cloak upon his shoulders, dressing him as a false king in their cruel game. Bowing in mock reverence, they laughed and struck him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" Their words, meant to ridicule, carried an irony they did not understand. For before them stood the true king, not of earthly dominion, but of hearts, a king whose throne would soon be the cross. Through it all, Jesus remained silent. He did not defend himself or resist their violence. His silence was not weakness, but a strength rooted in perfect love. In choosing not to retaliate, he revealed the gentle power of God, a power that does not destroy, but redeems. His calm endurance became a testimony that true authority is found not in force, but in the willingness to give oneself completely. Then came the moment to carry the cross. Weighed down by exhaustion and pain, Jesus lifted the heavy wood upon his shoulders and began the journey to Golgotha. Each step was a struggle, each movement marked by suffering. Yet he continued forward, embracing the path before him. This was not merely a road of execution, but a road of redemption, where every step spoke of love carried to its fullest measure. Along the way, Simon of Cyrene was compelled by the soldiers to help carry the cross. What began as an unwilling act became a moment of unexpected grace. Walking beside Jesus, Simon shared, even if only briefly, in the burden of the cross. In him, we see a reflection of every believer, called sometimes reluctantly to take part in the suffering that leads to life. As they continued, a group of women wept at the sight before them. Their sorrow was real, their compassion sincere. Yet Jesus turned to them and spoke words of gentle correction, inviting them to look beyond the present pain. He called them to recognize the deeper reality of salvation unfolding. Even in his suffering, he consoled others, revealing a heart that never ceased to love, even on the way to the cross. Chapter 6. The Cross, the Summit of Saving Love. On the hill of Golgotha, Jesus Christ was nailed to the cross between two criminals. Suspended between heaven and earth, he was treated as one rejected, counted among the guilty. The crowd watched, some in silence, others in mockery. Yet even in this place of shame, something sacred was unfolding. What appeared as defeat was, in truth, the beginning of a love that would redeem the world. Above his head, a sign was placed, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." Written in multiple languages, it declared a truth that many refused to accept. Intended as a charge, it became a proclamation. The one who hung upon the cross was indeed a king, but not as the world understands kingship. His authority did not come from power or force, but from a love that gives itself completely. As the soldiers cast lots for his garments and the crowd looked on, Jesus spoke words that revealed the depth of his heart. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." In the midst of pain and injustice, he chose mercy. This was the first word from the cross, a prayer not for himself, but for those who crucified him. Love responded to hatred, and forgiveness broke into a world of violence. Beside him hung a man who recognized his own guilt. Turning to Jesus with humility, he asked to be remembered. In that simple act of trust, a door opened. Jesus answered him with a promise filled with hope. "Today you will be with me in paradise." Even in his final hours, he continued to save. No sin was too great, no life too far gone, for the mercy that flowed from his wounded heart. At the foot of the cross stood his mother, Mary, and the disciple whom he loved. In a moment of profound tenderness, Jesus entrusted them to one another. "Behold your mother, behold your son." In these words, a new family was born. The church took shape in that sacred exchange, a community formed not by blood, but by love, gathered around the cross and sustained by grace. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness covered the land. Creation itself seemed to mourn. The light of the world hung upon the cross, and the earth trembled under the weight of the moment. Time slowed, as if all of history paused to witness what was taking place. In that darkness, the deepest mystery of love was revealed, a love willing to enter even the shadow of death. At last, Jesus cried out, "It is finished." With these words, he completed the mission entrusted to him. Then, bowing his head, he gave up his spirit. It was not taken from him, he offered it freely. In that final breath, the sacrifice was fulfilled, and the path of salvation was opened. The cross, once a symbol of death, became forever the sign of life and love. Chapter 7. Death, Blood, and Water. A quiet hope begins. As Jesus Christ breathed his last, something extraordinary took place within the temple. The great veil that separated the Holy of Holies was torn in two, from top to bottom. It was not the work of human hands, but a sign from heaven. What had once been hidden was now opened. Through his death, the way to God was no longer closed, but made accessible to all humanity. At that same moment, the earth began to tremble. The ground shook beneath the feet of those who stood nearby, and rocks were split apart. Creation itself seemed to respond to the death of its creator. These signs were not random, but filled with meaning. They revealed that this moment was unlike any other in history. Something cosmic was taking place, touching both heaven and earth in a mysterious and powerful way. Among those who witnessed these events was a Roman centurion, a man accustomed to death and execution. Yet what he saw moved him deeply. Standing before the cross, he declared, "Truly, this was the Son of God." In that confession, a new understanding was born. A man of the nations recognized what many had refused to see, that the one who had just died was indeed divine, full of truth and grace. To ensure that Jesus was truly dead, a soldier pierced his side with a lance. From the wound flowed blood and water, a detail carefully remembered and passed on by the gospel. This moment, quiet yet profound, revealed something hidden within the mystery of the cross. Even in death, life continued to pour forth from him, reaching out beyond that hill, touching every generation that would come after. The Church has long seen in that blood and water a sign of the sacraments. The blood recalls the Eucharist, the gift of Christ's body and life for the world. The water points to baptism, through which new life is given. From his pierced side, the Church itself is born, nourished, and sustained by grace. What flowed from the cross continues to flow into the lives of believers today. As evening approached, two men stepped forward with courage and reverence. Joseph of Arimathea, along with Nicodemus, asked for the body of Jesus. They wrapped him carefully in linen and spices, honoring him even in death. Their actions, quiet and faithful, stood in contrast to the violence of earlier hours. Love remained present, even when hope seemed to fade. They placed his body in a new tomb, carved from rock, and rolled a heavy stone across its entrance. Silence fell once more. It seemed as though the story had come to an end. Yet beneath that silence, something unseen had already begun. The seed had been planted. Though hidden in darkness, the promise of resurrection was quietly unfolding, waiting for the dawn that would change everything forever. Chapter 8. Celebrating Good Friday today. Each year, the Church enters again into the mystery of Good Friday, a day unlike any other. It is the only day in the liturgical year when Mass is not celebrated, inviting the faithful into a deep and solemn remembrance of the death of Jesus Christ. In this absence, the silence speaks. It draws hearts to contemplate the cross, where love was given completely for the salvation of the world. Instead of the Eucharistic celebration, the Church gathers for the liturgy of the Passion of the Lord, usually around 3 in the afternoon. This hour holds special meaning, recalling the moment when Jesus gave up his spirit on the cross. As the faithful assemble, they are not merely remembering a past event, but entering spiritually into that sacred hour where suffering and redemption meet in quiet reverence. The liturgy unfolds in 3 solemn parts, each guiding the faithful deeper into the mystery. First comes the liturgy of the Word, where the Passion according to St. John is proclaimed. In listening to this gospel, believers hear again the story of love and sacrifice. The Word of God becomes alive, inviting each person to reflect on the meaning of the cross within their own life. The second part centers on the veneration of the cross. A crucifix is brought forward and gradually revealed to the assembly. One by one, the faithful approach, often kneeling or bowing, to kiss or touch the cross. This gesture is simple yet profound. It is an act of faith, a personal response to the love shown by Christ, and a recognition that the cross is no longer a sign of death, but of salvation. The liturgy concludes with Holy Communion, using the consecrated hosts from the previous day. Though there is no Mass, Christ still nourishes his people. In receiving him, the faithful are united with his sacrifice in a quiet and intimate way. This moment bridges absence and presence, reminding us that even in death, Christ continues to give himself as the bread of life. At the beginning of the celebration, the priest enters in silence and prostrates himself before the altar. This powerful gesture expresses humility, sorrow, and adoration. It reflects the posture of the entire Church before the mystery of the cross. The altar itself remains bare without cloth, candles, or decoration, visibly reflecting the emptiness and mourning of this sacred day. Beyond the liturgy, the Church invites all believers to fast, to pray, and to enter into silence. These practices are not merely external observances, but paths into deeper communion with Christ. By embracing simplicity and sacrifice, the faithful unite their lives with his. Good Friday thus becomes not only a remembrance, but a living encounter, where each heart is called to carry the cross with love and hope. Chapter 9. Meaning and invitation for today. The cross stands as the clearest sign of total, self-giving love. Upon it, Jesus Christ gave everything without holding back. It is not only a symbol of suffering, but of love that chooses sacrifice for others. In the cross, we learn that true love is measured not by comfort, but by the willingness to give oneself completely for the good of others. Through his death, Jesus opened the way of salvation for all. What seemed like defeat became victory over sin and death. His sacrifice restored the relationship between God and humanity. The cross is not just a past event, but a living source of grace. From it flows forgiveness, mercy, and the promise of eternal life for those who believe and trust in him. Good Friday does not end in despair. Though marked by sorrow, it always points toward the resurrection. The silence of this day carries hope within it. For Christians, suffering is never the final word. Even in darkness, God is at work. The cross leads forward, guiding believers toward new life, where pain is transformed and hope is fulfilled in the light of Easter. Each Christian is invited to take up their own cross and follow Christ. This means living with faith in daily struggles, trusting God in moments of weakness. The cross is found in ordinary life, in patience, sacrifice, and perseverance. When embraced with love, these moments unite us with Jesus. Our burdens become a path that draws us closer to him and strengthens our faith. True love is shown through sacrifice and service. Jesus teaches us that love is not only spoken, but lived. In a world seeking comfort and recognition, the cross reveals a different path. It calls us to serve, to forgive, and to love quietly. In small, hidden acts of kindness, we reflect the heart of Christ and make his love visible in everyday life. The liturgy of Good Friday invites silence, fasting, and prayer. These practices help us enter more deeply into the mystery of the cross. In silence, we listen to God. In fasting, we detach from what distracts us. In prayer, we unite with Christ. These simple acts open our hearts, allowing the meaning of Good Friday to become real and personal within our lives. Each believer is invited to enter the mystery of the cross and discover new life. We are not only observers, but participants in this love. Through Christ, suffering is transformed, and death leads to life. The cross becomes a beginning, not an end. Good Friday quietly reminds us that beyond every sacrifice, God prepares a resurrection filled with hope and everlasting love.